to spot properties, how to buy, how do you finance. So today we're going to talk about something very different as well. So we're going to talk about what not to do as well. Because when we know what to do, we also want to guide people on what are 3 common mistakes. All these are collated from experiences of our clients and then what we notice the trend in the market as well. So today we are very glad to have a Cijay. Cijay Tew is actually a very senior team leader in PropNex. So he's a senior advisory branch district director. He is also the chief IC for quite a few projects for reputable developers, which is why he get in touch with a lot of these cases, and bringing with him along is a wealth of experience. He's been in the industry for a very long time. In fact, he started in this industry since he was very young. I'm going to leave the detailed introduction to CJ himself to share his interesting story. So today we're going to take about maybe slightly more than an hour for tonight's sharing, because we're going to give you a lot of facts and figures, likely to be about 70 plus to 80 minutes of seminar, after that we'll do the question and answer. So hope you hang in there with us. Okay, without much further ado, CJ, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you.
Hello. Hi everybody, this is CJ here. A very good evening for all of you tuning in. And this is truly an honor to see so many of you tuning in right now. And the first thing that I would like to share is how's everybody doing for this during this COVID circuit breaker right now. How are you doing? Maybe just comment how are you doing in the chat box so that I can also see what you guys are doing. Anybody? If y'all can hear me, just give me a thumbs up so that I know it's good to go. Okay, good. So I can see so many of you doing fine. Okay, and while we are having this, right, of course, I think one of the good things is that we can also continue to improve ourselves, as well as we learn new things every day. And we have been zooming in and out with our clients for the past 3 weeks. And so far, so good. So I'll keep you posted and update on some of the things that we have researched. And let me just go to share my screen right now. Eddie, I need you to allow me for screen sharing.
Sure.
Thank you.
And we are okay. Good to go.
Can you all see the slides? Is it okay if I don't share full screen slides? Is it okay? What do you think, Eddie? Is it okay if I don't share full screen? Because then I can show the cursor later on.
I think it should be good for now, but whenever we go to the statistic, that part might be a bit small. So for viewers at home, just like to share with you that on your own screen itself, we can actually toggle between the ratio of the slide and the ratio of the speaker. So at home, you can also toggle as well.
Okay, so this will be good enough so that at least I can have the cursor to show some of the things that I want to highlight later on. Right, so with that, let me just move on to the most important slides for today's seminar. Okay, where are we? Okay, this is the most important slides that you need to know, that all investment do carry risk, and of course, whatever accuracy of the information is to the best of our knowledge and is purely for entertainment in terms of sharing view as well as educational purpose. And it is not by any ways that we're going to do this in terms of recommending you any products, because we do not know your profile, we do not know anything. So this is just for empowering and educational purpose. And do highlight that all investment carry risk. So this is just for sharing purpose from our own experience, and it does not represent the company's opinion. This is purely our own personal opinion. All right. So let me move on to the very burning questions right now. I believe many of us would have been wanting to find out, will we enter into a recession after this COVID circuit breaker? And also, we have received a lot of questions like, will price drop due to the COVID-19 situation, right? Because a lot of people has been telling me, hey, what happened if people lost their jobs? And so on and so forth. So, okay, what will happen if this pandemic lasts longer? Okay, let me just see whether if I can do a full screen, and then let me just check this out. Hold on a second. Full screen from current slide. Oh, still can see the cursor. That's good. And then how do
Need
I?
tonight, especially for you, they let you use.
No need to pay for extra subscription. Okay, good. So these are some of the 3 top questions in our consumers' mind today, because based on feedback we have gathered all these from our teammates as well. So today I'm going to give you the first 15 slides, right? Not for you to digest in terms of what does it mean, but it's meant for showing you it creates. Okay, see, these are all the propaganda from the media side, wanting viewership, wanting the people to read out, and so on and so forth. So in terms of the header, in terms of all the news, right, we definitely will see some of this, and we just keep an open mind, because most importantly, when I share this, I want to share with you that it creates a lot of emotions. And today I want to give you the difference between a logical thinking and an emotional thinking differences. So with that, right, you can see from the negative point of view that, the PM also doesn't rule out a recession due to this outbreak. Okay, so this is number 1. The number 2 slides, as you can see, the primary sales volume has been affected, okay, due to the closure of the show flats. And of course, nobody's supposed to go out right now. Therefore, transaction volume is definitely going to be lower than usual. This is without much saying, but it's very obvious. And this is just one of the slides. I'm going to go through very quickly the first 15 slides. This is the second one. The third one is optimistic. Okay, that means optimistic buyers are snapping up deals amid circuit breaker lull. Okay, and of course, you can see, just giving an example of something that is like Treasure at Tampines, right? We have already transacted 26 units to date, even while we are having this COVID situation, even while we are having this circuit breaker situation. So this is an example of a genuine demand from the upgraders market. However, we also do, if you read the article for HProp, right, you will also realize that there are some top range product, which is the higher end, transacting at 10 million and above. They also took place. And of course, they are all different segments. And today, we will talk a little bit more towards the entry level segment, mainly because people who are tuning in, a lot of them has been, I think 80% of the population would have been given this feedback that they are looking at potentially upgrade or so on and so forth. So of course, there will be higher end segment, but I will touch a lot on different segments and different perspectives. Okay, so from here you can see that the transaction volume based on the article that Mr. CEO Ismail Ghaffar also tells HProp that our transactions till 20th April, since the circuit breaker, right, we have around 300 over transactions as compared to 4,800 transactions based on the previous month. So this is a big drop in terms of transaction volume. Okay, and let me move on to the next one. Secondary sales volume remains challenged. Meaning to say, if you are a resale, take a look at this on the 2018 to 2019, right? There's a big reduction in terms of the resale transaction volume for the resale market, secondary market. And there's a lot of reasons, mainly because the new launch pricing, some of the entry price level is quite comparable to the resale market. Therefore, when buyers look into this, right, they may also have alternatives in terms of their choices. So this is another segment that we want to highlight. And next we have a prediction. So analysts also predict up to 8% for a full year drop in private home prices. Now you see, why am I showing you all these different articles? As I mentioned, there's 15 of them. So why am I showing you all this, right? You can see that in order to achieve this 8%, right, there are bound to be certain products or certain segments that goes more than 8%. Okay, and there are bound to be certain segments, maybe on the contrary of a reduction, could have gone up slightly, so that if divide all together, it becomes an average of 8%. So this is something that we want to focus on. Which segment are we looking at? Therefore, I think we can't use a blanket policy to gauge which market, but I think we have to be very detailed, which is why this is an overall sharing based on emotional. When you see this article, how will you feel? All right. Next, March private home sales slump may be signal for a full year route. Again, this is all the negative news, right? Later, I'll give you the more to the facts and figures. These are all emotional kind of things. Okay. And next slide, we have a HDB resale. Rental volume drops in the Q1 and prices are stagnant. Okay, again, these are all things that people may be reading, and they will definitely have some emotions if you are one of them, in terms of either you're making a decision or you're one of the owners. Okay, and of course, the positive news side, there will be people who are saying Singapore property market can withstand the impact of COVID-19. Why do they say so? Definitely there's some reasons. I think one of the key reasons is cooling measures has been there since 2013 with a very hefty TDSR implementation, and that's where it potentially, and the keyword here is potentially, could have spared the property market in greater pain. Meaning to say it's a bit pain, not very pain yet. Okay, and of course, condo resale condo resales rise 70% in March, but slowdown expected in April, which is what I highlighted. I think the slowdown is pretty obvious due to the everybody staying at home, and the transaction volume is expected to drop. And of course, the jump in demand for rental, which is a good news for landlord. In fact, recently, inside our own internal checks and internal system, we are able to see there's a higher demand for rental in terms of condos, HDB flats, and so on in March. Not only in March, even in this particular month itself, we are feeling the market. Okay, and new home sales in January up. Okay, this is already a Q1, so I'm not going to touch too much, just to give you a positive feel, because this one is already during the crisis, during the pandemic, right? And Wing Tai, okay, so these few developments, right, actually launched during the first quarter, meaning to say they are in the midst of this coronavirus outbreak situation when they launched. And in fact, Wing Tai did very well for the M. Okay, same goes to Park Canberra, which is an EC, and they sold over 64% in just first weekend of launch. And these are all, as you can see, all very positive news. Meaning to say, even in the midst of a coronavirus outbreak, there are genuine demand. Okay, so we are here to talk about genuine demand via numbers later on. But as you can see, while some medias are posting very positive stuff, some media are posting, it's always the very contrast and opposite of each other. And Chip In Seng also sells 77 units of copper. And of course, this copper, right, to be frank, this copper is the weekend before the circuit breaker when they launch. Okay, which means everybody is already know that, hey, it's going to be circuit breaker. And how come these 77 owners decided to proceed? Is there some value proposition that we potentially may have missed? So we want to explore all this through a very open sharing and open-mindedness. And of course, the virus impact to home sales expected to be a short term. Okay, the keyword is short term because of, as I mentioned, the regulations in place. And of course, the demand could pick up in the second half of this year. And the reason is very simple. Every year, there's an average take-up rate, also called when we speak to investors, that's called the absorption rate. But most importantly, when we talk about all this absorption rate, is on average. So I can also show you later on with the statistics, what's the contrast when regulations took place. So now, after showing you the first 15 slides to create your emotions, everybody feels something. Some feel very hyped up, some feel very demoralized after see all the slides, right? So after the first 15 slides, I want you to strike a balance right now to remain calm. And there's a meme out there where Mr. Lee Hsien Loong, our PM, right, say 冷静, cool down. Okay, so you must 冷静, cool down, and then use a very balanced logic to weigh the pro and con. So before we make any decision, especially this could be one of the largest purchase in our life, right? I think it's very important that we have a sound and very fact and figure kind of decision making process. So some of the common mistakes that I would like to share, okay, firstly will be the first group of people unaware of a real cost of private home ownership. And this could be a lot of reasons, but I'm just maybe going to touch on one first. Maybe they are unaware because they have lack of knowledge. I think this could be one of the key. But today's, in a Google generation, right, we cannot use lack of knowledge as an excuse not to gather knowledge, because we can always attend like webinar like today, or we can also ask our fellow teammates in PropNex to gather some of the the slides and how we can churn out some numbers for you to digest. So all this is not an excuse. I think if you want to make a sound decision, it's important to know and be aware of what's the current market situation and what's the numbers. And of course, secondly, A lot of people buy based on emotion, which is why I highlighted earlier on. After seeing all the slides, one day you want to buy, the next day the paper come out not so good, you don't buy, and so on and so forth. I think it's not healthy because we have to base on facts and figures. So paying more based on personal feel. So if the development has a very nice show flat, you pay a bit more because you feel that, wow, so nice and so on. But actually they spend millions on show flat itself. So of course, having a show flat is nice and to have a feel, but I think boils down back to the numbers. Today I can buy properties. In fact, I have bought few properties in my entire life, right, without even looking at what is the house itself. So this is one example. Is it the right entry price, or is it based on the personal feel or hyped up emotions and so on? Or is it based on your personal preference? And when it comes to personal preference, I always ask the person, hey, do you want to pay more for your own convenience? Because if you pay more for your own convenience, it means that there may not be genuine demand in that particular segment, but because you like that development in your personal capacity, so you are paying for your own convenience sake. Okay, and number 3, we have lack of planning for home transition period, which is a common thing because of the regulation right now that, a lot of people needs the cash proceed before they can, buy the next house, or perhaps they don't want to pay the ABSD first, and then they want to get back the refund and so on and so forth. So this lack of planning could potentially resulted in a surprise, a hidden cost. Okay, and I want to highlight this because proper planning is necessary, especially when we are buying building under construction kind of properties. So this is something that we always emphasize a lot. And number 4, lack of homework and research to understand the support level. Later, I'll give you a very good example of what do we mean by support level and entry price. So with that, right, you can then understand what kind of properties potentially may have a slight dip versus what kind of properties is pretty safe and sound, predictable potential upside, yet downside also very, very little risk involved. I think everybody is looking for what kind of products are we looking at if we are talking about this, right? So I'll give you more examples later on. And last but not least, insufficient knowledge on CPF usage. Now, a lot of people, they work very hard for the entire life, like they're in their 30s, mid-30s or maybe 40s. They have quite a sufficient amount of CPF and sitting there doing nothing, and we can't withdraw it out, right? So a lot of them make this particular mistake, and later on I'll show you the mistake, so that they put in a lot of CPF in their purchase and therefore resulting in a potential negative sale. It depends on how long they hold the property. All right, so with that, let me move on to the next slides. I'm going to show you this example here in an apartment status, which is on the left, versus a big development, which is on the right. Now, there are many pros and cons when we look at this. I think one of the biggest pro and con is the facilities in terms of the massive land size that a big development can offer versus the similar land size, but definitely is more for apartment status. Therefore, we don't have much facilities to talk about. Furthermore, in order to maintain, because the cost of maintenance is pretty high in terms of every 5 years you need to maybe do some touch up here and there and so on and so forth. So maintenance fee is also one of the hidden costs that a lot of people overlook, which is what we want to talk about, right? Mistakes that people overlook. So give you an example of a daily cost. In terms of daily cost, right, the maintenance fee of a big development that can potentially offer you a lower maintenance fee over a spread of 10 years will cost you around 21,000 for maintenance fee. And a small development costs the similar maintenance fee, costs the maintenance fee to be higher because of lesser number of people supporting this maintenance fee. Therefore, it will result in a higher maintenance fee. And this is based on experience that we gather over the past many years. A similar holding period of 10 years will result in 66,000. And the huge difference, if you talk about a long term of 10 years, right, could be seen in 44,000. I just want you to imagine, right, if you make 240,000 for this development, therefore you are actually making 44,000 less, and therefore it shrinks to become only 200,000. So this is an example if your potential profit margin is that range. And next thing that I want to highlight is the cost of ownership. Now, a lot of people also feedback to me, hey CJ, Hey, right now, the bigger units are in the resale segment because they are built previously. So it tends to be slightly bigger because previously don't have TDSR to support the affordability, right? Therefore, now developers are shrinking the size of the units to cater to the affordability on the ground due to the regulations. And due to that, right, a lot of people prefer, let's say, the resale. Nothing wrong, but if they prefer the resale, are they able to first get what they want? Okay, get what they want, meaning to say a beautiful, move-in condition kind of home. Okay, of course, as you can see here, there's a lot of hacking needs to be done if it's a resale, and if you want a big enough resale, I think this is one of the very good example that we have to hack every single thing, and you can easily ask for a quote. And if you are those like very atas on the picture on the right, you can see this kind of renovation, right? It will easily cost you at least 150 to 200,000 if your unit is a 5-bedder or EA or EM, or perhaps if it's a private property 3-bedroom. Okay, so this is an example of the hidden cost that some people may have overlooked. And lack of planning, as I mentioned to you, lack of planning in terms of transition period, okay, will result in a minimal rental of 3,000, and with $3,000, right, a spread over a 3 years period could have cost you more than 100 over 1,000. And with that, what does it mean? It means it erodes away your profit potential margin. Let's say you, again, similar example, if you have 240,000, after you less the 100,000 and you less the 40,000 for the maintenance, you're left with less than 100,000 in your sales proceed in that sense. Okay, so this is an example of what we are talking about, but of course, we have to plan accordingly to your needs. Therefore, this is just a general example of some of the potential mistakes. Okay. So before we always take action, right, I always like to ask this question: is your home an asset or a liability? Okay. So this is one question that a lot of people never ask. They always thought, okay, the common mistakes, right, is that they always think that, yeah, TJ, if I never make money, I just stay here forever lah. It's a very common thing that we heard also. So if they don't make money, but they forgotten that if they continue to stay there without any profit increase over the potential increase over the years, right, it is what we call a stagnant property. Do you even ask yourself, is your property stagnant? Or is your property a liability that you need to fork out extra cash to, pay for the monthly mortgage, etc., etc.? So this is something very common. And if you don't do a detailed analysis whether it's a very good way of holding on to your property, right, I think you are holding on due to emotion. Emotion means what? Never mind lah, I stay here lor, it's okay lah, I stay here, I don't make money, never mind lah, I stay here until I die lah. This is the kind of mentality that we are talking about. So if people with this kind of mentality, always remember, we urge you to keep an open mind, which is why we always say we agree to disagree, but importantly, keep an open mind so that we know what is the blind spot that we may miss out. And of course, if you are going to talk about a positive sale, whether you have stated based on a profit margin already, your property have appreciated over time, you have positive cash flow from rental, or you are sitting on a gold mine, you have already profited, okay, it's also a sign that maybe you want to cash out to reinvest, which I also touch on giving you some examples later on. But in terms of negative sale, why would it become a negative sale? Again, we will give you some examples later on. And the third one is, are you using or are you buying in terms of a longer term mindset to deal with a decision, or is it just emotion? Now, the reason why I show you the first 15 slides is to create some emotions for you. On the other hand, a decision making, right, I strongly believe should be made on a longer term perspective. Now, I give you my personal best example. When I buy my first property, right, I never think of what is the market good or market no good. In fact, I bought my property around 20 years ago. So it's like, wow, 20 years ago, I'm so young. I don't even know what is analysis. Back then, there's no internet. We are still on a Nokia phone. All these things, maybe we don't even have a phone for some of us. All this is because of what? Very simple thing. Because we think simple. All of us think simple back then. And we don't have this internet where we can do research, where people are talking seminars, where we can learn from them. There's no such thing at all. So we learn through what? Experiences. We learn through other people sharing. Okay, and all this is what we call the long-term mindset. Because when we get married, the first thing is we ask ourselves, can we move into our own home? Don't you think all newlyweds want to do that? What do you think? I think I personally, speaking from experience, right, every newlywed will want to have their love nest together, okay? And this is one of the reasons why it's always supported by a new family nucleus. And every year we have a substantial number in terms of that. So some of you may be saying that, hey, today I already made some money from my current property. Should I take out the profit and buy another 2 more units, or should I keep? This is also a very common question that we face day in, day out. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples of why people buy and sell at the same price, still make money. And I'm also going to give you some people buy low, sell high price, but yet never make money. It becomes a negative sale. And just now I was touching on this point, right? A lot of people ask me, how come like that? Why is it that they buy and sell also can make money at the same price? Okay, so this is one example. This is an illustration of the effects of a compounded accrued interest over the spread of, over a spread of, I think it's about 25 years. Okay, it states here, 25 years. So what does it mean? It means a person who is buying a sale of a BTO flat at 360,000 with some special CPF grant, okay, and place a down payment of total 36,000 CPF and a HDB loan of 2.6 per annum for the next 25 years, fully using CPF to repay. And at the end of these 25 years, right, the property, okay, expected lah. Okay, I'm just talking about general perspective. It could be maybe 500,000, 600,000. This is not important, but the most important thing that you need to read from this chart is that you need to sell at 688,000 in order to break even your refund for CPF accrued interest. Meaning to say, if today I buy this 360,000 and at the end of 25 years, I really can sell at 688,000. I have $0 in terms of cash proceed. And maybe I need to fork out the agent fee as well. So this is one of the reasons why some of them who bought earlier, let's say if you buy at the age of 21, at the age of 25 years later, which is your 40 plus, right? If you not 55, you cannot take out some of the money yet, but yet you are stuck in a situation where, you still don't have a positive cash flow for your sale of this property, which means there's no sales proceed. Okay, so this is something that becomes a double-edged sword. Of course, with the help of CPF, it helps Singapore to have a lot of home ownership because everybody can start up. And I think our minister also mentioned even with $1,200, right, people can buy a house already, okay, with an income of $1,200, okay, which I'm not very confident, but that's what the minister claimed, okay. And very importantly, when I read this, right, I also say, it must be coming with a lot of subsidies or perhaps grant involved. Okay, otherwise this figure doesn't match, right? So maybe they put in a lot of grants, maybe they put in a lot of other subsidies, okay? So these are all the potential costly mistakes, right, which can be avoided. And I want you to take note of some of the things, right, that you potentially can do your own homework in order to avoid this. So the next question I'm going to pause a while and ask all of you is that, how many of you tuning in truly believe that you can, use real estate as an investment tool to help you grow your wealth? Okay, you can comment here at the chat box. Okay, but if you have questions, don't comment at the chat box. You comment at the Q&A. Okay, so if you do believe, just type yes, I believe. Okay, in the chat box. Okay, I'm just gonna see. Okay, some of the messages coming in. Okay, yes, I believe. Okay, if you believe, that's good, because if you don't, it's also not wrong. Okay, so there's no right or wrong. It depends on different perspective in terms of what are we looking at. Okay, and I'm going to go in detail some of the examples. Now, in terms of perspective, I put it in a layman method. I don't even want to talk about what is called financial freedom. I just ask you a simple question. How would you like to have a yearly overseas holiday fully paid for? And going overseas, especially if you are traveling to a winter place, right, for a family of 6 is going to be quite costly. Right, so this is some example of if you would like to have a holiday fully paid for every single year, by who? By your tenant. Okay, and this is one of the key examples that I want to highlight to you, that every one of us can start to plan early. And if we start to plan early, we potentially in time to come, we may achieve our desired goals in terms of this. So of course, we cannot be all rosy and telling you all the nice story. What are the 6 main obstacles that disallow people from moving forward? First, huge capital outlay. Although we come with huge capital outlay, on the other hand, we also have a huge leveraging power, right? Okay. Next, loan eligibility. This is income related. A lot of people will be telling me, hey CJ, if my income don't meet that criteria, there's no way I can involve in any kind of investment. Now the next question is it true, or you have not explored your options? So do sit down with your PropNex agent who have invited you. Maybe they have a different perspective. Maybe they can give you alternative solutions. Of course, lack of knowledge, which I highlighted many times. And next, no network. That means today you will think that, oh, I'm actually buying something I like, but is that really the best deal? Who would you ask, or who do you trust to know that it is the best deal out there? Is it based on my 10, 20 years experience, I'm telling you this is the best, or is it based on facts and figures? All right, so this is something to take note of. And of course, the uncertainty of the market condition, which is like right now, there's a pandemic, everybody's like, hey, how, right? So we'll give you some numbers later. And of course, it's a high risk. The reason why it's high risk is if you buy a property without having a reserve fund, that means in any condition of a potential job cutting, or maybe you lost your income, you lost your job, whatsoever, then how long can you hold a property without that particular income? So this is talking about risk. This is talking about the kind of reserve fund we are talking about. And all our PropNex agents are trained to share with you what is the reserve fund that is suitable to last through or tide through a pandemic like today. Okay. Next thing, you can also remember some of the things. Is it forgotten by some of you, or is it temporary challenges, or is it just a passing rate? Let me give you some examples. Now, prior to this pandemic, right, a lot of people have been talking about trade wars. Now, no longer talking about trade war. There's no trade war. Why is there no trade war? Maybe physical war. I don't know. It could be for some pessimistic people who are telling me that, hey, they are finger pointing. Everybody is showing off their army already. So they are like very ready. So this could be a group of pessimistic people. There will be another group of very positive people who say no issue. In fact, we don't even remember there's trade war, because the trade war is not last year. The trade war has been ongoing for decades. It's just that how serious it is. It has been ongoing for decades for trade war. And of course, the no deal Brexit, we negotiate, then negotiate, and so on and so forth. And some of us remember before the pandemic, a lot of us are looking at, the Hong Kong riot, how many days already? Still non-stop. Still people don't want to, stop the riot. Who are still, going all full force. And today we are no longer concerned about the riots. Every day we are only concerned about what? Our personal health. How many people have affected? How many people have been infected? Who are the ones getting in and out of the hospital? And every day you are just looking forward for the government message. This is why, because this creates only a temporary kind of situation. With all this ongoing, the same question goes back to when I buy my first property. Do I still need to start a family? Do I still need to buy a property? Of course, there will be this group of people with a genuine demand. All right. So next thing that we want to highlight, buyers from China bump up in terms of Singapore luxury condo sales, and of course with the pent-up demand. Now after this pandemic, right, I would say I dare to give a forecast, okay? And this is again, I highlight, is a personal opinion. It doesn't represent anybody. A personal opinion that the global market is looking at Singapore, and due to Singapore's transparency in handling the situation and the effort the government has put in, right, to help the people who are in need, right, I think a lot of global investors will then see Singapore from a different light. That means today, if I'm a billionaire, if I'm a multi-millionaire, I will see that, this is a good place for me to retire, and maybe I will consider buying a property. And of course, as I mentioned, right, this is one group of people. Okay, so we are talking about a potential group. And the changing types, okay, you can see from this slide over here, just want to highlight here, there are 30% during the peak, and the peak is in 2007 and all the way to around 2011, where you can see the peak, right? There are 30% of foreigners buying into Singapore. But today we have been, after the 2011, all the measures came in for the ABSD, right? You can realize the situation for foreigner buyers has been deterred, or so-called muted in terms of that. But it's not completely, because there's still a good 20% in terms of foreigners buying into Singapore property. So this could be the ultra high net worth that we are talking about, in terms of if I have that capacity to be in a safe place, where do I choose in the whole world? Okay, and that kind of situation. So affordability in Singapore remains one of the lowest. Singapore becomes super affordable in terms of living, and we are talking about affordable housing here. As you can see from this chart, right, compared to the global market, right, Singapore is one of the lowest. The reason why I say this is because when we buy a property, right, there's 3 portions of a purchase in terms of the costing. The first is the acquisition cost. The second is the holding cost. And the last is the exit cost. And with this, right, holding cost is just maintenance fee and maybe some renewal for your renter that you pay your agent, and maybe exit also similarly 2% to your selling agent, and so on and so forth. The only thing that deters foreigners from coming in is the expensive or the high or hefty stamp duties that we are talking about, making the entire purchase, because it's in cash, right, making the entire purchase very costly. So in order to maintain Singapore's affordable housing, the acquisition cost in terms of foreigner buying in, right, will be high. Cost of buying will be high, as you can see from here, this slide, which is why Singapore is almost the second highest in the world in terms of acquisition cost, in terms of the ABSD we are talking about, right? So this is one of the key indications why we have a good, decent group of, that means they are really well-to-do. They are able to afford the ABSD. So they will still consider Singapore. Now, Singapore is also a safe city. It offers one of the best bet with all the, just now when I show you the trade wars, the Brexit, all the other country situation, right? A lot of people will also come forward and say, if these other countries also having the same, that means if pandemic is happening, so does the rest of the world. So it neutralizes all the competition of the pandemic. In fact, it put us in a better position to position Singapore as the best, okay? And because Singapore is the best already, meaning to say, how will the rest of the global investors feel about Singapore being not only the safest, but being the most transparent out there, able to deal with pandemic using the past experiences, and it's only doing better and better each time. Okay, and this pandemic, as I mentioned, is not going to stop here. Next 10 years, maybe another one. Nobody knows, right? If we are able to live long enough, we will see maybe another 1 or 2, right? So this is something that we want to emphasize, that Singapore remains very competitive, remains at the top of the range in terms of considerations for investors out there. So what are some of the key indications that we have to observe before we buy the next property? So I'm going to give you some blueprint. And this blueprint boils down to affordability versus, meaning to say what's the risk that is involved versus the safety net. Okay, and there's ever-changing 5-tech theory. Okay, I didn't go and trademark this 5-tech theory, but it's just a theory that I have come up with to let you understand that with different situations, the government policy can be tweaked. Okay, and of course the urban transformation, which is now, last time, right, we don't see. Later on, I'll give you some examples, but I'll touch on the transformation. And of course, demand versus supply, as well as time versus affordability. So I'm going to touch on these 5 main so-called things that we can look at before we look into the investment that we may want to buy. Now, first thing first, right? A lot of people used to tell me, CJ, last time, ayo, Atiya, last time you don't know lah, you still not born lah. Last time, so this is an example, but I'm just going to showcase to you, right, what happened last time. Back in the Asian financial crisis, right, which is the 1997, right? If you can see from this chart over here, during the 1997, right, the debt servicing is so high that if there's any potential further increase in the interest rate, right, a lot of people will give up and say, okay, sorry, bank, can you take back the property? I cannot afford. Because if you earn, and back then the household income is not so high, if you earn $9,000, can you imagine your mortgage servicing is at $4,500? Then something happened, you lost your job, do you have savings? What happened if the interest rate increase? Do you have savings? And that is the time where the market will crash or potentially crash. 这个叫in Chinese is called 马后炮 crash 了才讲 crash. Okay, so very importantly, right, what I'm saying here is back then with this still not stabilized in terms of measures, right, there's a huge risk of ownership because people who are holding on, they don't really can afford. Okay, as compared to after 2009, 2009 is here. After 2009, after the first round of regulations has been implemented in September 14, right? You can see after that, subsequently, the holding, that means the TDSR holding has become stronger, and therefore, also because of the interest rate has dropped. But most importantly, right, the debt servicing is what we are looking at. The debt servicing becomes 24.5%, which means the red dot here, if potentially the interest rate were to increase, right, you know what's going to happen? The interest rate is going to increase, right? You are still within your affordability because the household income has also increased over the years. Meaning to say now you are earning 16,800. Your repayment is maybe 25%, which is about 4,000. Okay, and therefore, if there's a potential increase, it becomes, let's say, 5,000. You still can afford. Maybe you eat less out. Maybe you don't every day eat out. You don't go traveling so much. You can save some money and then you can service the additional interest payable. So this is how the general affordability of the homes become. And of course, the interest rate forecast, as I highlighted to you, right? Interest rate is so-called expected to remain low for at least another 1 year, 2 years. Okay, the reason is very simple. You see a lot of banks right now are giving fixed interest rate. And you know, banks are super conservative. If a bank can give you up to 5 years fixed, right, they are pretty confident. And this is an article in November 2019. Just for your information, this fixed rate at 1.87, today we have a 3-year fixed rate at maybe less than 1.4%. So can you imagine what kind of savings you have if you choose to enter in today's market? So this is one example of how you can benefit. You know, whenever there's a pro and con of investment, we always look at both sides. And we, as I mentioned, we keep ourselves open-minded and open to opportunity. Okay, so I'm going to show you this chart that explains why potentially we may not have such a big impact based on the pandemic itself. You see all the blue bar over here. Okay, this is the blue bar over the many years ago. Blue bar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the blue bar signify the crisis. Okay, and each time we are talking about, let's say, the Asian financial crisis, the Lehman Brothers collapse, the SARS, and of course the recent one, which is the this 2008, right? Okay, this is the one. So you can see, right, the chart itself. If I were to plot, and there's we just look at the red line because all these stands for different index. One is for maybe lender segment, one is for OCR segment, one is for RCR. Then one is for total, one is for the non-residential total, one is for CCR. So we just focus on the general first, which is the red line. Okay, and if you look at the red line, I just plotted the highest to the highest to the highest point. Potentially, our current market, if without any regulation in 2013, it could be at here. And over here, if I plot the lowest to the lowest, or so-called lowest to the highest, it could be that, which is quite unlikely. But if I were to plot here to here, also neither here nor there, is not as the current market reflected right now. So no matter how I plot, whether it's from here to there, there to there, you know, it is not, meaning to say, it is not how the market would have behaved in terms of the economic cycle if there's no intervention. So the keyword here is if there's no intervention. In 2018, first half of the year would have crossed a 7% the resale index to increase. And if there's no intervention back in 2018, a potential crisis may happen in terms of a huge drop. Because why? People just keep buying, and it could become a double-digit growth at the end of 2018, which is why in the mid of 2018, there's a measures that came out, right? to curb all this. So we're going to touch on that in a while. Of course, you can see since September 2009, we have already many rounds of measures. And just to go through with you together, right, some of them, but I will go through very quickly because all this you can read up, not a problem. If you are not sure, you can also ask our PropNex agents who have invited you to share with you how it is like. Okay, so over the years, these are some of the regulations in place. So I'm not going to go in depth, but just to look at these numbers once again, okay, from here to here, it was hugely affected. And when I say hugely affected after 2013, what do I mean? It means for almost 5 years, close to 5 years, every single quarter from the URA resale index, right, is dropping. So without predicting what is the next quarter, I already know it's going to drop. Because why? Every single quarter consistently drop. So if there's a consistency in dropping, right, it is due to the what? Not only sentiments, but I think the main impact is from the TDSR. So we have almost killed 100%. I wouldn't say all, but killed almost 100% of potential speculators coming into the market, right? And because of that, right, in 2017, you realize there is a lack of supply. And when there's a lack of supply, it doesn't reflect in 2017. In fact, right, 2014 to 2016, we have very low transaction volume. And these 3 years, 2014 to 2016, right, our transaction volume is around 22,000 in total, which is a transaction volume for the full year of 2012 before the TDSR measure. Can you imagine 3 years take to sell the number of units is 1 year, the entire transaction volume. So that is how big a drastic drop it is. Okay, and because of that, you can see that due to all this, right, the market situation have really changed. And therefore, coming back to the 5-step theory, right, we just want to highlight to you that in any market condition, a lot of people are pessimistic, say, oh, maybe this, maybe that. But let me tell you and assure you one more time that the government is always looking into real estate matters because this is our home ownership, right, is very high. It's like home ownership of more than 90%. And the household dwellings is about close to 1.4 million. So with that in mind, the government always wants a steady growth. They don't want overnight rush, to very high, but yet they also don't want it to go down. They want sustainable growth. So the keyword here is sustainable growth. And with sustainable growth, what do we need to tweak? Okay, so as you can see for TDSR, it has tweaked the potential people who may be speculating. Because with that, I need to physically have the affordability before I can use CPF or before I can take up a loan to buy the property. Previously, no need. Previously, if I have 1 million full cash, I can down pay 10%, buy 10 properties. Because 10%, no need to pay anything, deferred payment all the way. Until 4 years later, then I come and kalang kabo. If I cannot afford, then never mind, just forfeit. It's okay. It's like a gamble. It's a risk. So this is not a risk. This is talking about if I have 1 million today, I can only buy 1 or maximum 2 if my earning is a lot. Okay, and I can show proof of the affordability. Okay, so TDSR can change, can tweak because now it's 60%. Self-employed like ourselves, we get another haircut of 30%. They can do away with this. They can increase to 70%. They can also decrease to 50%. It's all tweakable. Just like when I recall, we can have $1 drive away a car, right? But today we don't have $1 drive away. What do we have? We need to down pay 50%. Recently tweaked back to 40%. So we can have 40% down payment, 60% loan for the next 5 years. So all this becomes what? A measure in place to define the affordability, and all this can tweak any time. If I feel as a government, if I feel that the affordability can change over time based on the income, the statistics and so on, I will change based on the needs if that's necessary to be changed. ABSD, if I feel the market is weakened, or if I feel that, seriously now a lot of Singaporeans really very wealthy and need to have another alternative of buying a second property, maybe I will tweak to maybe reduce the current 12% to maybe back to 7%. I'm not saying it will, I'm just saying it potentially can be tweaked. Okay, so please don't misquote and misunderstood. And SSD, back then we have a staggered of 4 years, 16, then staggered down 4% differently. Okay, so we have a 16, then 12, then 8, then 4, right? For over 4 years spread. But today we only have a 3-year spread from 12% onwards. And all this tweak is necessary to maintain people who can resell in the resale open market versus if I have not enough supply. If I have not enough supply due to the pandemic, all the construction workers cannot work. And I have to delay my construction, and everybody, developer not buying, you not buying, developer not buying, construction worker cannot start work. Everything will be delayed. And when everything delayed, what happened? They have to open up SSD to let the newer who are the 20% who are the investors to sell their existing property without the SSD. So potentially there will be more sellers allowable to sell in the resale market. But this again won't happen at this moment, because at this moment I don't foresee there's need a tweak. And recently there's a tweak in CPF as well. Retirement CPF account has been always ongoing. It is slightly above the inflation rate. Okay, and looking at this CPF tweaking the retirement age account, and also the usage of CPF with the combination of the the youngest buyer versus the age of the property combined to be at least 95 years old. I think they are encouraging people who are having a bigger savings in CPF, right, to buy the resale market, whereas they disallow the younger generation with a huge amount of CPF to buy the older flat. The same reason goes to why I've mentioned to you, because if they buy very young and they utilize a lot of CPF, later on in their life, they may face the accrued interest potential problem, where they may not see a positive sale. And that becomes one of the very great mistakes. So this is something to highlight. The CPF can change anytime. Tweaking, what's the percentage can use? Tweaking, the down payment, the LTV, the next one, the LTV. First buyer, tweak. From 80% drop. Last time is 90%, right? Now 80%. Okay, then subsequently 75%, and so on and so forth. All these can tweak. And they can also say, sorry, if you're buying a second property, no usage of CPF. So what I'm saying here is just showing you random ideas that all these things can be tweaked. And once you know that all these things can be tweaked, right, you know that the government has real estate at heart. They know they have to support Singaporeans. They know that if there's a pandemic coming over, they need to support. If the repayment of mortgage is going to be a challenge, can we defer 6 months? This is also some help. This is also a changing of policy implemented by MAS, right? So all these things can change. What about unsold condos? Wow, unsold condos, ABSD, they got QC check, they got this timeline 5 years to sell all these things. Is it a time for review? And our dear minister say easing Singapore property curbs may not be on the radar at the moment, but again, easing the curbs, right, it may not be in the radar, but they never say tweaking is not allowed. Anyway, all this report, right, is very easy for reporters, right? They just copy and paste and then massage the word. Every time got a similar article, you see, always talk about easing of curb. It's always no, not so soon. No, not in the radar. No, just a tweak of words. So what do I mean? Very simple. If they say no, let it be. Why? Because when it comes to the actual on the ground, you can see that TDSR was waived for a deferred mortgage payments, and all these rules will come in to help the people on the ground. Listed Singapore's companies can get an exemption from the QC, meaning to say a Singapore listed company with an exemption of the QC payable based on a penalty they need to pay the government for ABSD if they do not get it sold within a stipulated time frame. And with this, Singapore listed developers can actually get an exemption. And this is important because it shows the 5-step theory. It shows that the government is concerned about the real estate market. It shows that the government have the heart to maintain the growth of the economy and the benefits of everybody. Not only the consumers who are buying the properties that the so-called the end user, but also the developers. They need to be taken care of because they are the big stakeholders having a lot of investment in Singapore, and the developers don't want, the government also don't want the developers to get into trouble. So as much as possible, all these, they don't want to say can or cannot. So what do they say? They say new rules on all the QC, right, will be briefed to Singapore developers and case by case. I never say can, I say case by case. approach for troubled projects. Okay, so again, never say tweak, never say can, but case by case. Okay, so they don't want the abuse. They don't want you can sell, then don't want to sell. You want to wait until good times, then sell, right? So they don't want the abuse. So this is one of the reasons they say case by case. So is it necessary for cooling measures, my friend? It's first to prevent oversupply. And a lot of people have been asking me, hey CJ, today we got oversupply. Later I prove to you there's no oversupply. So next one, ensure the affordability can cope with the income growth of the Singaporeans so that the property won't be outpricing the growth of income, especially the household income. Ensure the income increase can match the increase in housing annually. Okay, so just to give you an insight on what happened back in 2000, okay, so I just give you this example over here. Every crisis, right, everybody, so-called previously, not now, previously, every investors or speculators will dump everything they have. They will dump everything. Then they will put the money. Cash is king. They will put the money to the bank. So when there's a crisis at the red line, you see the money in the bank, the proportion in cash deposit and CPF will increase because everybody sell everything they have. After that, nothing happened. It will go down. Okay, where's the cursor? Okay, it will go down. After that, the money go up, right? It will go down because nothing happened. Nothing happened. People withdraw to buy investment. And then crisis, the money go up. Then after that, nothing happened. People take out the money, go and buy things. Crisis, the money go up. Nothing happened. Over here, nothing happened. Okay, there's no more crisis. But you see the money in the bank keep going up. The wealth of Singaporean keeps going up. One portion is because of the en bloc millionaires. That's one portion, making the bigger increase for the averaging out. But I think most importantly, it's not just one factor as I highlighted to you. Household income has been on a very steady growth over the past 10 years. Household incomes, as you can see, right, from 2009 to 2019, it has been on a steady growth. And as you can see, the averaging out is around 4.6. Some years are higher, some years are lower. Okay, and of course, looking at average household income today is around 9.4K. Okay, this is the data from Singstat by BOS, and an average net worth. That means on the average, people who are holding cash is close to 80,000. That means today, while you're tuning in, based on average, you should be holding 80K cash in your bank account. And if you are inclusive of your CPF, right, your household should have 361,000, which means today, if you want to buy a second property, maybe the down payment is higher, right? You may not. But if you sell your HDB or you sell your existing and you want to upgrade, actually can, because you cash out your potential profit margin plus the current as whatever you're holding, 361,000 in total, including CPF. This amount can then grow into a bigger property if you have the needs of it. Okay. And of course, this is an exposure of the household of net worth based on real estate exposure on the average of past many years. That means since 1995. And of course, I will say these figures is not very good indication. The reason why it's not very good indication is because last time the exposure is very risky. That means people who really cannot afford also buy. But today you can see, right, is well below the average of last time as well, because this is back in 2017. So you can see from here, and we are actually at a very low risk because this mortgage data, it shows that 20 to 30% of buyers are investors only. Okay, meaning to say for the past many years, because 2011 until 2018, they are all years with regulations in place already. We are having an average, because when you take a mortgage, you need to report to the bank that whether are you own stay or investor for renter. So with that, the bank will have a mortgage data that investors are actually on a 22%. Okay, so meaning to say, if let's say I have 250,000 of non-landed residential household in Singapore, example, you have 250,000, only 22%, which is less than 50. About 50,000, about 50,000, okay, will be investment. And out of these 50,000, in order for a bad time, because based on regulations, some of them have to down pay 55%, right, for a second property and so on and so forth. So based on regulation, how many of them wants to sell, a panic selling? Okay, this you go and think about it. I'm not going to say yes or no, but I think you can think about it. Is there a demand really even with all these measures? So as I mentioned to you, there's one group of people who have been holding cash, especially since the second half of 2019. You can see the entire year, right, in 2019, right, the first 2 quarters, all the en bloc millionaires, right, have collected $6 billion. And the end of second half of 2019, right, they collected $10 billion. And what does that mean? It means all the owners of developments getting the sales proceeds are here. And with that, there's a huge group of people who can hold this money and potentially want to invest. But yet, because of this pandemic, after they receive the money at the year end, they heard a pandemic, so they are holding on to the money. Can you see that? If they're holding on to the money, there's going to be a pent-up demand. Whether you like it or not, it's going to be a pent-up demand because they want to buy. They cannot buy things. They have to buy something that can invest and protect their future. So this is one of the examples that, hey, they may want to buy, but it's a pent-up demand, which will come in maybe the second half of this year, as I highlighted. Why did the government release the cooling measure? As I highlighted to you, back in the previous years, right, the supply is dropping. And when you see this supply dropping, right, which means the properties that's going to be completed, physical completion of the property, that means hand over the key. The physical completion of the properties is dropping, and therefore in 2016, right, since the you can predict it's going to drop, right, 2016, the developers start to have a bit more concern, a bit more interest to buy en bloc properties. And the first en bloc, the mega en bloc, we're talking about HEBC, right, started in 2016. In 2017, where we seen Tampines Court, okay, previously was the Shunfu. Okay, then we have the Tampines Court, then we have the Eunos View, and then subsequently the rest of the many en blocs. So with that, you can see that all these en blocs happened when the supply to the market was reduced. Okay, which resulted in 2018 due to the overbuying. I would say not overbuying because, as I mentioned to you, I have slides to prove that we don't have oversupply. So with that in mind, the developers started to buy a bit more aggressively in terms of bidding of the price, which also become a preventive measures that the government needs to have an implementation of the regulation in 2018. So the supply actually go up. That was back then because of the TDSR, as I highlighted to you in 2013, highlighted to you the TDSR impact, right? So when transaction volume drop, when the resale index drop, the supply continue to increase, nobody is buying, it will have a glut, okay? Then subsequently, after the absorption rate comes in, right, and after a long period where people get used and immune to TDSR, right, then you see the impact of what is called depleting stock. So today I'm going to introduce to you this word called depleting stock. Okay, which by 2017, everybody is very concerned because 16,000 is insufficient to have the next year's running with a very healthy numbers for the influx of the population growth. So why government introduced cooling measure in July 18? As I mentioned once again, they already have been overbuying in terms of the land bank. Okay, and once they overbuy, it is time that there's some policies change so that everybody can cool off a little bit. And based on whatever they purchased in 2018, right, you can see that the potential incoming supply is going to build up. And in 2000, that means this year still okay, next year just nice, 2022 potential a little bit more, but due to, sorry, this is not a current slide, right? Because this one was previously shown, not about the pandemic. So due to the pandemic, what could have happened? This would have maybe been averaged out. That means the averaging out part, due to some delay here and there, it is okay. That the absorption rate can then take up all these. So there's no oversupply in the actual handover of the key. And of course, this is just to show you this is just enough for up to 2023. After that, we have insufficient. Okay, the supply will drop. And as I highlighted to you in 2018, right, this is the first half. In fact, this bar chart I'm showing you is the first half. Because thereafter the June, after the implementation of the regulation, there's not much, almost muted the entire market. So all this happened in the first half of 2018. 2019 only a little bit. So you can see the en bloc numbers almost muted everything. And the government land sales also has been the lowest for past many years. So this is very clear signal. You think you don't buy, developer also don't buy. When nobody buy and the absorption rate is slowly taking up due to the genuine demand coming in, end of the day there's something called depleting stock. So just to go and show you very quickly over this few slides, because all this slide is talking about 2019 take-up rate, and as I mentioned, 2019 take-up rate has been quite healthy. The new launches has been around 10,000, and these are some of the top selling developments. Next, these are the different segments. So in case, because right now, as I mentioned to you, I'm being very general, the core central region, the take-up rate based on the 3 different regions, right, has been a well spread. Okay, so you can see the numbers are quite well spread. That means it's not just one focus area where there's a big spike in terms of the demand, but overall, it is genuinely every different regions have their own demand and supply. Okay, so all the numbers shown very clearly here, all these are as of last year, so I'm not going to go through all this, but one thing to take note is, as I highlighted to you earlier on, if you can recall, right, I told you the total number of sales is 22,000 in 2012. That's before the TDSR. Thereafter, the combination of 3 years, which is why I told you the decline and everything, the transaction decline, the resale index decline, it took 3 years to sell the same volume. So we're going to be very pessimistic. We're going to use the example of 7,000, right? Okay, 7,005 based on the most pessimistic year. 7,005 currently we only have 30,000 in stock. That means unsold inventory in total Singapore. The total unsold inventory is 30,000. If based on 7,005 divided by 30,000 divided by 7,005, right? It is about 4 years. We will be able to completely finish everything if everybody don't buy. Okay, but you know, developers cannot don't buy until last minute. They have to buy and maintain a certain amount of land bank in order to run the business. So that's not possible. What we are saying is just to give you an indication of how long the stock is going to deplete completely, just an indication. And because of the en bloc I've highlighted not moving, the GLS also not moving, okay, because of the numbers drop, right? The whole idea is we are into a serious situation called the depleting land bank. So you can see from here, right, the depleting land bank, averagely before all the 2013, right, we should have 14,000, which is shown here. First half of 2012, 7,000, second half 7,000 confirmed list, total is 14,000. 2013, after the TDSR, first half nothing happened because it happens on the second half. Then you see complete drop 1,000, drop 1,000, drop 1,000. Every half yearly drop 1,000. And this is again the GLS. To the lowest point that we can see here is 2016, 1,560. And that's where we don't have enough. And you see, when we don't have enough from the land bank of Singapore, which is the GLS, government land sales, when we don't have enough, the only alternative is to buy from en bloc, which is the resale. And that's where 2016, the resale started, the en bloc started happening in the resale market for developers. You see the link? So the en bloc muted after the recent introduction for the 25% plus 5% non-releasable. So developers will also be very careful because they know that, hey, my land bank still a bit sufficient. With the new ABSD, 25 plus 5 is no joke, don't play. So I only buy when I have really not enough land bank. Okay, so that's the idea that the government is giving them. Don't buy additional, don't buy and keep stock, because you have timeline to sell. And if you cannot sell, you better pay me this ABSD. So developer also won't play already. Okay, so limited near-term supply is manageable. Meaning to say, as I highlighted to you, the additional of all these in GLS and en bloc, right, is expected to be low because, as I mentioned, developer not buying. So all these stocks, right, is only now, the only things that is going to tweak, right, is that it could have delayed a bit. It could have been averaged out. It could have been delayed a bit. But what's the most important in this slide is to show you that limited near-term supply and the potential of weaker rental demand from foreigners due to people cannot travel here and there, or even if they can, even after this pandemic they may also want to be a bit more careful for the first few months. So there will be maybe a weaker demand, but that doesn't mean it's completely muted. As I mentioned to you, there are still overseas clients buying Singapore properties. Okay, and of course, depleting stock, as I mentioned to you, all this is on a below average. So the historical chart starts from 07. From here, you can see, right? The historical chart, back then, no regulation. While we have 44,000, as you can see in 09, 08, 09. When we have 44,000, nobody said oversupply. Why? Very simple. When we have 44,000, there's no regulation. So people can just buy, and people can buy 20,000 per annum. So if they buy 20,000 per annum, nobody's going to complain oversupply because the 44 you sell half. So there's no oversupply issue. But due to the fact that all the regulation come in, right? Okay, you see this long term, the average is 32,400. Today we are only at 30,000, my friend. We only have 30,000. On a historical average, we are not even having oversupply. We are under supply. This is what we call depleting stock. And then goes back to here. Whenever we have depleting stock, do remember all these policies that we have highlighted, it can change anytime. Okay, so I'm just going to bring you back to the 5-step theory. I'm going to conclude in the 5-step theory that whatever we have in mind thinking that, oh, it's going to be a crisis, price will drop, all this, we've forgotten the Singapore government is there to support. The Singapore government is with transparency, is with the kind of potential to do some changes here and there to make sure they see through all the steady growth that they are expecting for Singapore real estate market. And of course, as I highlighted, the cities that's most at the risk of bubble is in the dark black, okay, dark black. Pink color over here, which is also high risk. Fair value, as you can see, Singapore is here. So to the global investors, that means to say if I'm buying a global, but if I'm rich enough, let's say I'm considering global, I will then look at this chart and say, oh, since where is the safest? Oh, Singapore number 2. Or where is the fair value? Where is the acquisition? Where is the healthcare? Where is the education? Where is my family going to be? Are they going to be well taken care of? What happened if something happened to the pandemic? What happened? Can Singapore government handle? Can Singapore government take care of its people? I feel I have the very encouraging and the feel is confidence that I think the government will take care of this. Whether it's foreigners, whether whatever, the government will always take its priority to ensure the safety of its residents. So I think this is something very good. So what is support level? I'm going to touch on very quickly because I think I have really spent a lot of time to giving you the big picture. What is the support entry? Because people will say, hey, but I still don't want to take so much risk. Tell me something that is very safe to enter. Okay, and I'm not recommending anything as I highlighted to you, because I'm just giving you examples. So we have HDB examples. For those of you who owns a HDB, wow, you see, HDB also got atas HDB and non-atas, not say non-atas, but normal HDB. Just like private residential have normal private residential, have high-end private residential. So similarly, right, what does it measure to? If today we are talking about, let's say, an average of, let's say, 8%, based on the article, I'm not saying it will, but based on the article, let's say it's going to happen at 8%. Don't you think HDB worth 400,000, 4-bedder or 5-bedder, would have a very minimal impact on the price? No matter how you tell me it's going to drop, doesn't matter. At most, maybe another 5%, 20,000 off. So it's going to be 380K. But if a $1 million, and of course the picture here shows Pinnacle. The reason why it shows Pinnacle is because it is the iconic HDB in Singapore, right? So if it's Pinnacle crossing $1 million benchmark, don't you think it will have a higher percentage of drop? Because the first owners are also buying in maybe $500,000. So even if they sell a 900,000, potentially they still can make a 400,000 profit. And with that, right, what does it mean? When they sell low, it doesn't mean they lose money. When they sell low at 900,000, maybe with the profit of 400,000, they also enter into the next private residential at a lower, due to the current similar market situation. You sell low, you also buy low, you sell high, you also buy high, right? the similar market condition, you move and sell and buy, you end up neutralizing all the potential risks. And this is a very important fact, because I'm going to share with you that HDB, right, based on the analogy of entry price. This is what we call entry price. HDB entry price starting, this is the BTO, right? 400 over 1,000. For 5 room, maybe mature estate, some of the mature estate is 300 over 1,000. How low can it go? Because this is BTO. And the resale with all the grants I highlighted, up to 160,000 in grant. With all this grant, a resale after you factor in the $500,000, you less of maybe not 160, because 160 it has to be a very low income, okay? So maybe 50K, maybe 60, 80K, doesn't matter. But if you get 50 to 60K off, it's already 400,000. Isn't it the same as an entry price, similar of a BTO? So tell me, HDB 5-room flat at Bukit Merah sold for 1.2. If you buy at 1.2, tell me you want to sell how much? 1.5 to make a decent profit of 300,000, or you want to sell 1.4, right? So same logic, what kind of segments are we talking about? What is the entry price? The $1 million HDB out there are facing a downtrend, as you can see. And I'm not going to be surprised, because you can see the Pinnacles recorded 1.23 million, right? And the just now the earlier slide, I also shared with you some of the very city central kind of HDB. They are all crossing 1 million, but these are the group that may potentially face a greater in percentage of downtrend. But that doesn't mean I'm speaking for every one of them. Just giving an example of what potentially may have a big difference in percentage. So then with 1 million, 1.2 million, then I will think, hey, as a buyer, what other alternatives do I have? Can I buy a private? Sky Everton or the Everton Park, Sky Everton or whichever, per bank, one per bank, or whatever product. Is there a unit going at 1.2 million? I will also consider, hey, since I'm buying the city central, I'm buying for the locality, and if I don't mind a smaller size, I can own a private. Do I have a higher potential of upside versus a HDB? Why? Because HDB is the highest entry, whereas this is the lowest entry of a private residential. There's a two different topic altogether, right? So what about demand? So next thing I'm going to talk about is the demand. And I'm going to show you a very interesting chart, because this is talking about the population growth over 27 years. Okay, and since 1990, we have 3 million in population, 2000, 4 million, 2010, 5 million. If you use an estimated growth, we are growing at 100,000 per annum, other than the recent few years. And there's a reason why the recent few years was a dip, because there's a lot of infrastructure that the government is considering upgrading, especially to the transformation of Singapore. Later we will touch a little bit. And then the number of residential households has also increased steadily. This is over since 2013. Although 2013 has been the year of the TDSR, however, the number of residents also has increased steadily. And as you can see in the current slide, stable household formation growth as well. So, as I mentioned to you, whether the global crisis, pandemic, whatsoever, the fact of the matter is the household continue to grow, and newlyweds will want to be aspired to own a property, okay, for their loved nest. So is buying real estate really safe? So I'm going to touch very quickly on some of the risk versus safety net. Okay, and of course, do we really able to retire in Singapore very comfortably? Okay, we always ask ourselves this question: how much do we really want? So, I have read an article, right? Most people will only think of retirement at the age of 38 in Singapore. That means if I'm 25, probably I'm not thinking of retirement. I'm not saying, oh, this average age. So only at the age of 38, then people start to think of retirement. But my question here is, by then, is it too late? Why is that so? Because the amount of loan tenure that we can get also reduce as we age. So if we don't start to plan early, actually we plan to fail. That's the very critical thing. So how do you build your wealth? That means if today I own a 500,000 property, after 30 years or 25 years, I fully paid up. I only own that 500,000. Or is it okay if I own a based on affordability. I'm not saying you must own 5 million, but if I can own, let's say, a $3 million property, will I then, after 30 years, fully pay up this 30 years property? And the fact of the matter is, this is just planning. I'm not even asking you to hold a property for 30 years. I'm just talking about planning for your retirement in case you really hold for 30 years. So the sad truth about Singapore is that a lot of people, the high percentage of people, right, unable to realize their retirement dream, mainly because of these few reasons: regretted not saving more, retirements has been delayed because they didn't start early, the standard of living dropped. That means they would have downgrade in order to cash out a certain amount based on the livelihood or to support their livelihood. Many retirees, their standard of living worsened before, and all this. So I asked myself, how much do I really need? If I need $4,000 at the age of 65, if I need 4,000, how much do I need at the age of 65 in order to have $4,000 received? The answer is 2.7 million, which I know for a fact. I'm not speaking on behalf of myself. I'm speaking on behalf of many Singaporeans out there who don't have this capability of saving $2.7 million. So in order to do that, right, I can save $9,000 a month, or the question is there any other alternative? Because I know if I don't even earn 9,000, how do I save 9,000? Even if I earn 15,000, can I save 9,000? Then I don't need to live on expenses and so on, right? So this is unlikely. So the question here is that, is there any alternative solution? And that's where we talk about one of the potential example is the property investment. Now I'm going to give you an example of just 3% because the inflation rate in Singapore average out is between 2 to 3%. So when I give an average of 3%, that means there's no increase in your property price. The value of your property would have increased to 1.9 million if it is worth 1 million today, after 30 years, after the compounded, not compounded, even without compounding, sorry. So this is the inflation. So the value of the shrinking dollar, as you can see, right, just based on 3% for 5 years. So I'm going to highlight here, just based on 3% for 5 years, right, if 100,000 you're holding in your savings account, right, it will be worth 85,000. Things get more expensive. Think about it. During this pandemic, how many things get more expensive? Think about it. Okay, and just a simple example of a mask, which is for your own protection. How much have it increased? From less than maybe $10 to become $25 to $30, and some exorbitant at $50, depend on quality. I don't know, but look at it at this way. And remember, because I got married at the age of 21. So when I got married at the age of 21, after 4 years, I have my first child. And I remember back then when I buy this milk powder, right, it is only around $18. And after that, I have my fourth child 12 years later. Okay, my fourth child, the same brand, everything the same grammage, the same brand, costs $55. From $18 to $55. This is the actual inflation of the shrinking dollars. And I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Even for your chicken rice, even for your kopi, and even for whatever things that we are talking about, it's the same. So the next question a lot of people like to ask me is that, is it the right time to enter now? And to give you the best example, right, Mandarin Gardens, because Mandarin Gardens is a big development, more than 1,000. Then a lot of people say, wow, big developments got the appreciation potential or not. So this one, a very good example, because Mandarin Gardens is also very old. Yet, over time, the value has increased. Isn't this amazing? This is one of the best examples. A three-bedder bought at the worst period of time. Because people ask right time or not. So this is the worst time. 1997, bought at 750,000. This gentleman, Mr. Tan, was 45 years old. Today he's 65. After 20 years, okay, just an example, not the actual number, but just an example. This 23rd floor unit, right, was facing the sea and transacted at 750K. But this transaction is real, and today is worth more than 1.5 million. What does it say? Very simple. This property would have almost been fully paid. This gentleman, Mr. Tan, would have, if let's say he really fully paid, would have this $1.5 million to his name. Did he buy at the best time? No, it's the worst time, because after 1997, the market crashed. this 750,000 become around 400 over thousand. Okay, because back then no regulation, the drop could be quite scary. So from 750K drop until 480K. Can you imagine? Today is at 1.5 over million. Okay, and its 23rd floor, maybe it's nicely done now, I don't know, but it will be at least 1.5 million. And with that, can he retire? Can he go and sell this and then go and buy a HDB and so on and so forth? So this is an example. So as you can see, the holding period is no longer short term. If today I'm buying based on pandemic or not pandemic, I'm totally wrong because that's emotion. Average holding period has been proven after the regulation. You see, before regulation, the average holding period is around 3 to 4 years. After the regulation, right, 2009, after the regulation, right, it's between 3 to 4 years. You see, 07, everybody flip, it's 4 years or less, 3 point something. After that, you can see the holding period gets longer and longer due to a lot of regulations. And it's proven based on the past 10 years. So I'm going to go through pretty quickly because it's already 90 minutes. I don't want to drag too long. You can see this 10 years challenge, right? The property price have increased 86% based on new launches. And this is talking about the eastern region, just an example. But the eastern region resale price has only increased 52%. So with that, right, the Morgan Stanley research also shown with the transformation of Singapore, a very potential increase of a bearish market at 73% or a very bullish market exceeding 100 over percent, which means your property could have doubled in the next 10 years based on a very bullish outlook. But even as a base or as a bearish market, it would have increased 73%. If today I buy a 1 million, it would have translated to a $1.73 million property. That's going to be the transformation. So when I talk about transformation, I want to highlight, you see, when we look into this, right, a lot of people buy the core area. You see the core area we have near the River Valley, the Singapore River, the downtown core, and all this transformation near here, right? You can see this is a very wonderful transformation. But on the other hand, if I were to put on a bigger scale, you can see that this is actually a very small little pocket of transformation. And then we have a big transformation here at the Changi area, which is the one of the biggest transformation. Why is it the biggest? Because there's an aviation hub upcoming. And it's going to be so massive, right, that the workforce is estimated to be around 700,000 workforce needed. And based on this workforce, obviously cannot be everybody stay in Changi or Tampines or maybe Pasir Ris. Cannot. So the government also planned the CRL, which is the Cross Island Line, to actually bring workforce all the way from Ang Mo Kio, from Bishan, from all the Defu Lane and so on and so forth to the Changi area and crossing this area. So the Cross Island Line is to design a shorter traveling time for workers in terms of the workforce. So this will be the next transformation, talking about the next 10 to 15 years. And this 8 urban transformation is not going to be overnight. So when we buy, we know we're going to hold a longer term, which is estimated 9 years and above. Some may be shorter if you are buying entry level, some may be longer, but overall average is 9 years. So if you're not thinking long term, right, then I would suggest you maybe now is actually not the good time to buy. The reason is simple, because you're not thinking long term, you're more on a speculative, timing the market and so on and so forth. It is pretty risky because you can never guess the market. So Singapore ranked top 11 most beautiful city, and if I can see this view, and back then, let's say maybe 20 years ago, somebody would have shown me this, right? I would have back still borrow. I don't know whether I can or not, but I will back still borrow and buy Marina Bay, right? But nobody showed me this because there's no internet, because there's no exposure, because there's no URA having fly through, having videos, having Facebook. There's no such thing at all. Okay, so back then there's no such thing. And back then, 20 years ago, we have this. You can see the black and white. We don't even have a proper color picture. We have black and white. And today we are looking at this beautiful skyline of Marina Bay. Okay, and of course back then, even the Amber area, even the Marine Parade area, they are all very what? Very, very just transformed. Meaning to say, it's on the reclaimed land. Okay, but today they are all different. So I'm going to go through very quickly my personal profile. And when I go through my personal profile, I want to highlight to you one thing. A lot of times, this is also one of the mistakes that people make. When they buy, they only feel that what I can afford on the safety net, and not what my outlook of the safety net looks like 20 years later. So I want you to pay special attention on when I buy, not only I must be able to have reserve fund, not only must I be able to have a very good repayment based on my comfort level, but on the other hand, also very importantly, right, at the end of the repayment period, my property will be worth how much? And I want to put into the perspective of the actual growth of the proven market. Meaning to say right now, you can see, right, a BTO proven market for the past 20 years would have been 200,000 to 300,000. EC, which is what I bought, 470K, today would have been a 950K. Private property, a Mandarin Garden, if I were to buy in 1997, I told you Mr. Tan bought 1997, right? Then 1997, then 1999 dropped to 680K. Then year 2000 dropped even further to even worse. So if I were to bought 680K, today would have been around at least 1.5 plus. So this is what I want you to potentially foresee yourself, your future of your property, because it's proven, not only proven, but I also show you the previous slide that due to the transformation and the forecast by Morgan Stanley Research, the possibility of even doubling is there. And the question here is, I got married at the age of 21. The chart I'm showing you here also relates back to the current market situation where a lot of people are getting later. That means they get married later. Because why? They want more options. They want to, go and strive for something they want first. So instead of buying or get married when they are young, they usually tend to work harder, save more money, and then give themselves greater options. That means last time I got no money, I can only enter BTO. But today with more CPF savings, more money earned over the period of time, I actually have greater options. That means considering factors to actually let me have greater options, see which one can give me the most outcome in terms of desired potential profit. So I would say today you have a choice, because last time when we are young, don't have internet access, don't have all this luxury of the transparency, don't have the luxury of the seminar. So today is a different thing. Just a quick one, I share with you my story. I bought Eden 20 years ago at 400 over per square foot. Today it's worth this much. If I were to be a poor dad and I want to stay there forever, right? Today the property is still worth around 900 over 1,000. There's a paper gain. I will have no passive income, and I will still have an outstanding loan to service for the next 12 years. And there's no growth in my property portfolio. So this is what a common mistake that most people want to quickly fully pay, just stay at the own current house forever, don't want to move already. Okay, so this is our parents' generation may think like that. But you see, today with empowerment, with all the knowledge, with the transparency of Google generation, you guys are so fortunate that you know what you should be doing, right? And of course, the rich dad would have grown their portfolio, would have purchased multiple properties over time, would have made multiple folds, would have increased the ROE, would have increased their portfolio. And all this can be done. And I want to show you a little bit very quickly, because I'm not here to boast about what we have bought or whatever. But most importantly, I want to share with you the price we enter, whether it's a right entry versus the current market situation, to prove to you once again that the property market is a good savings plan. And if you ask any of the PropNex agents out there who invited you to this seminar, they would have been able to share with you what is a proper savings plan for the real estate. And with that, as you can see, this is 1.25 million bought in 2008. Today we have worth 2.6. You will have made a whopping $1 million. But of course, you may not want to hold so long. You may have sold at a decent profit or a reasonable profit, maybe halfway through. Then we have entered into double bay residences. Again, bought at 1.057 million. Sold with SSD, and back then I have a reason, and of course I don't want to share the reason too much, but because I wanted to buy a landed. But just to cut the story short, we, after lessing out the SSD, we still made a decent profit. This is what I want to emphasize. And the reason why we don't buy the next property is because we want to buy a landed to save on the ABSD, because back then there's already regulation for the second property to be imposed on the ABSD. So this is the Bedok Court that we bought at 1.5 million back in 2011. Today is worth around 1.82 million, depending on the condition of your property. And also there's a possibility of en bloc. So as I mentioned last year, because we did it at April, so we have very little runway because that was already almost peak timing. So the en bloc reserve price is at 3 million, and I'm not going to like hope for en bloc. And I really urge all of you, don't hope for en bloc. But if in the event it happens, right, I will be sitting on $3 million, and then I will be able to, do other things again. But on the other hand, even if I don't have an en bloc, can I reshuffle my portfolio? For example, sell at maybe 1.9 to 2 million. Can I reshuffle my portfolio and buy something else? This is something for you to consider as well. And then we also bought Twin Peaks in 2016 with a deferred payment scheme. And remember back in 2016, as I highlighted to you, it's a very low period where very little transaction, and we saw the potential because we know that it is below market price, and we know that with the cash flow of the deferred payment scheme for 3 years, we potentially can use that cash flow to do the repayment of mortgage, which is like the tenant paying for us in 3 years down the road. Okay, so this is an example of what I wanted to show you. And of course, as I highlighted to you, even at a very low conservative rental of 3,003, you would have an accumulated 100 or over 1,000 in terms of your rental savings. And this is something that can help you service your mortgage, etc., etc. So at the end of the day, if you have planned ahead, this is an example, and this is the current market value. So I'm going to go through very quickly. Most of us have a fear of uncertainty, which is why I want to tell you, don't use any emotion when it comes to buying your next home, which is why I keep emphasizing from the 8 p.m. all the way until now, it's all numbers. It's all proven by numbers. It's all proven by statistics that you can work hard for a next 5-10 years, plan for a very decent exit with the right entry price property, and I'm very sure you're on your way to get a very good savings plan from your real estate. And the most important resources we have in life, right, is time, because we can never buy back time. We can spend more money to buy time, other people's time. That means to say, if I'm employing workers, I can employ and use their time, but I cannot buy somebody to die for me, right? I cannot buy my own time. Time is so precious. It's our only most precious commodity. Okay, so don't want to waste your time. What goes up never comes down is your age. And when we have the time versus the age, your affordability also change. If you are waiting, sitting on the sideline and sitting on a fence waiting, at the age of 45, a potential loan amount of 750,000, right, over a spread of 20 years tenure, you need to have a minimum income. And usually minimum income doesn't mean a justifiable income. Usually you need to earn more than that. But I'm just giving the minimum income. 7,003, your installment is 4,000, which is ridiculous. If you have 7,000, your installment 4,000 is not logical, okay? But this is the minimum requirement. Okay, so next is that if you are 50 years old, that means if you wait 5 years, then you decided to take action, your potential income needs to be 9,000. And the question here is, who guarantees you this 9,000? Is it you? You are the boss, you also don't dare to guarantee. You as a worker, then how to guarantee, right? So with that in mind, your installment will also increase to $5,000, which if you don't buy now, you wait later, the more you will be scared. The older you grow, the more scared you will be, because the increase in the installment will be so fearful. And of course, all the measures that we mentioned, while the authority is helping us because we pay taxes, right? So while the authorities are helping us to balance all these cooling measures so that there will not be a sudden spike, or there won't be a downtrend that is too sudden and so on. We have a very stable, slow growth. It's considered healthy growth with all the tweaking of all the things to stabilize. And of course, as I mentioned about waiting, right, we cannot buy back time. So this is again one example of people who have waited 8 years since their age 40 at 2010. They waited 8 years because so many measures in between 2010 and 2018. So many measures. So someone who have waited 8 years, hopefully none of you listening waited 8 years. But if you are listening and you waited 8 years, hello, you are 48 years old. You want to wait another 5 years, you are 53 years old, you will never be able to buy a property already. Because why? Unless you strike lottery or you have great savings. But when I'm saying normal average people, the loan tenure will have shrunk so much that it's unlikely you will dare to take the risk to buy the property. So as a conclusion for time leveraging, right, we shall be more aggressive, but logical aggressiveness. with backup by numbers. We have to be aggressive yet logical at the age of 26 to 49, because that's at the peak of our career. That's where the peak of our income, where we create and grow not only our portfolio but also our income in terms of our businesses or perhaps our work or whatsoever. So it's been proven by the slides as well. It's all backed by numbers. So the labor force, due to this age group, banks are also more favorable to lend you money. So your greatest resource is not only time, but the greatest gift is the knowledge and the understanding of the use of it, right? So by waiting, a few things may happen. You may buy with more down payment, with a similar loan size, or you potentially need to increase your salary. Otherwise, you're going to buy further and further away, or buy smaller and smaller. So the question here is, if not now, when? Of course, as I highlighted to you, we are unlike our parents' generation who stay at their home for 20, 30 years. Today, we are only talking about a minimum 5 to 10 years holding period. It depends. It really depends what you want. So for those holding on the HDB, a lot of people say, hey, if I hold on HDB, wait longer, can I make more money later or not? But you see, from 1997, in order for the HDB market to go back up to 09, it took 12 years. And not forgetting that is without regulation. Without regulation means sentiments driven. But today, after all the chong, after 2006, HDB market chong all the way, right? You see, it went up to the peak price of 2013. Then it came down 7 consecutive years, and we are still in the rates now. So, if you ask me, personal opinion, HDB will have very little downside. However, to go back up again, confirm guarantee plus chop, under my personal opinion, it will not happen anytime soon. All right, and of course, it's backed by supporting numbers, because not only have we been very consistent drop, but the supply in BTO has been very consistent. So if I'm a BTO buyer, if I'm a HDB buyer, I have options of BTO. I have options of not only the current resale market, I have also the options of the newly MOP 5 years old property that is coming onto the market every single year. And because back then, when Mr. Ma Bao Tan hand over to Mr. Khaw Boon Wan, right, after the election process, right, the so-called the momentum to build since 2011, the momentum to build the HDB BTO, right, increased to 25,000 on average per annum for the next 4 years. That means 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, all took that kind of BTO 25,000. Therefore, when 25,000 add up, right, 4 years to build 5 years MOP, that is where you see 2019, right, coming onto the market, we have this kind of numbers. Okay, and because of that, the potential higher upgraders, they may also want to aspire to own 2 properties, because they have already waited almost 9 years. This group of people who waited almost 9 years, assuming I bought at 30 years old, I am 39 this year, I can finally sell my HDB. Question, do I still wait? Do I still think pandemic? Or after 40 years old, I will be even worse. I will be even more scared because my installment increase, etc., etc. This group of aspiring HDB upgraders will then come into the market and play an important role of the potential spike of the demand, which is the upgraders demand. And this increased pool of HDB upgraders demand is really genuine people. That means they are not looking at the trend, they are not looking at macro, they are not looking at all these kind of things. So this long and painful wait, somebody asking me if I can wait. Yes, you can wait, but how long, how many years? All this is a question mark. So that's the thing that we want to highlight. And of course, a lot of people in 2017, when we see a spike in terms of the en bloc, all these things, right, we also see that there is a big increase in terms of a potential uptick. So when we finally see a potential uptick, we quickly inform all the HDB upgraders, whoever came to our seminar, every single seminar, and you know PropNex do 100 over seminars per annum, right? 100 seminars, if every seminar filled with hundreds of people, we will have outreach of at least this X amount of numbers of people who potentially listened and took action, and therefore they benefited. Why do they benefited? Because we already told them at the beginning when this en bloc happening, we know that there will be a spike in the resale of the so-called the private residential market, and we see a potential downtrend on the HDB market, and it's proven by our expectation. As you can see, this is the same time, and this is the gap. This is the gap that has been created. So with this gap, right, I'm going to show you an example of the HDB upgraders. In 2013 is the peak price of HDB, right? So in 2013, a typical HDB in Sengkang Punggol could have been sold at an average price of 500 over 1,000. But today, the average price would have been 420. The difference in the cash proceed based on the average typical case study, right, would have been this different in the cash flow. So can you imagine, right, with all these, right, the down payment have changed, the LTV have changed over time. How differently would this couple be able to make different changes to upgrade? They would have been affected by regulations. They would have been affected by the lower sales proceed. They would have been affected by the higher down payment and so on and so forth. So these are some examples. By waiting, does it help you? And this is why a potential trend increasing of the gap. So right now, due to this pandemic, right, we don't want to let you see the so-called the gap widening any further. While we are at this period, if you have the opportunity, I would strongly urge you to speak to your PropNex agent who have invited you to know and understand your exact portfolio and how they can help you to do the upgrade. And due to that, right, you have to take advantage, seriously. So today we are here to talk about what you can do in terms of finding a similar price in 2018. And I'm going to give you this example. And again, I'm sharing from a perspective of a case study and not asking you to buy something, not asking you to take action to immediately make your purchase without a proper calculation. I'm asking you that if you can find something that is similar in price in 2018, would you be keen to explore? If you are keen to explore, can you raise your hand? Not the Kichu, is raise hand in the app. So if you can raise your hand and show me you're keen to explore, let me give you an indication. Tapestry was launched in March 2018, and Tapestry was having a sales volume, right, of 315 units on the first weekend, averaging the price of 1,310 per square foot. And Treasure at Tampines was launched 1 year, exactly 1 year from the first year of Tapestry launch, which means March 2019, Treasure at Tampines launched at an average of 1,003. And today, as we are speaking now, today, we are still having an average price of 1,003 per square foot. The starting price of Treasure and Tapestry both are also similar to the 2018 starting price. And of course, the bigger units commands a lower entry per square foot. But of course, the bigger unit, then the quantum will be higher. But what I'm saying here is, since that the average price remains the same as 2018, as a HDB upgrader, as I've shown you the gap, because the gap will be on average, right? Today, you will still be buying the similar price tag as compared to 2018. Don't you think this is a super valued proposition you should be speaking with your agent today? Right now, I'm so excited. Right now, even after, don't be afraid. Don't say, so late already, 10 o'clock already, I better don't disturb my agent. No, your agent will be excited to talk to you. So go and talk to your agent right after this webinar. And I can guarantee you, it's the lowest entry price in the market based on the current market situation. Because as I highlighted to you, 2017, at the beginning of 2017, right, you can see that the Tampines Court was en bloc at a very decent low entry price, because back then, 2017, the en bloc fever haven't even heated up yet. It was just the beginning. And moreover, Simlian is the developer. Simlian is also the developer and the construction, that means the builder. That is where cost effectiveness is there, which means translate to saving, massive savings for all of the end users who are buying in. And we have starting price slightly less than 1,001 per square foot. But if I don't want to quote the one off, because that one is a bigger unit. So on average, you can still easily get between 1,002 to 1,004 per square foot range, which is a decent entry price. If you even compare to the resale market, you would have known. And I just want to highlight this because it's in a mature estate. It's the first regional center in Singapore. Tampines has a lot of connection with me personally, but Tampines is the big 4 estate in Singapore with a huge amount of household. And we are talking about at least 250,000 household, where Bedok, which is the biggest in the east, have about 300,000 household. And with these 2 estates combined, HDB upgraders, if the entire east have about 700,000 HDB upgraders, right? There's only a few. In fact, I think less than 2 hands can finish counting what is available in the eastern side based on entry price. Okay, not based on in the east. Because in the east also got 2,000 over per square foot. So I'm talking about based on entry price for majority of HDB upgraders, or if you're thinking of picking up something that's slightly above $1 million for a 3-bedder, this is the kind of product we're talking about where you are very safe, yet we have very good potential based on the demand, based on the workforce, based on the transformation, based supported with all the facts and figures which I've highlighted to you. And of course, the transformation, as you can see from here, the Tampines transformation is one of the big blue in color, right? We have Jurong Lake District, similar size, you see at this chart. And of course, we have the CBD being the biggest, right? And we have Woodlands and so on and so forth. But Tampines is the one to look out for. Okay, and of course, to the support of Cross Island Line, which I've mentioned, to support the workforce. And of course, the HDB based on the population and the HDB dollars, we have sufficient upgraders to support the market. And most importantly, in Tampines, we don't have a lot of condos. Seriously, you can do your homework. You can ask your PropNex agent. We don't have a lot of condos in Tampines. And the median price of a HDB can support, because with the sale of this property, there will be a good amount of decent sales proceed, where based on the average household income can also support the growth, which then we talk about OCR market between 800,000 to 1.5 million is actually based on the average potential of qualifying for TDSR. Is a very good gauge that the HDB upgraders are very, very affordable to make this change, okay, or make this switch. So you can see here, from here, I just give you an indication, because just now the national average was 9,004. I don't want to put 9,004 because some people may say, hey, 9,004 national average, some people earn lesser. Let's even talk about just $6,000, the lowest $6,000. I will be able to take up a loan if I'm 35 years and below. I can take up a loan of 800,000 with the potential of a value $1 million property, which means even as a 2-bedder, if I buy 800,000 to make a $1 million, which is 200,000 potential profit margin, this group of people can afford. This is what I want to share. And of course, I've already highlighted to you, Simlian Group is the builder, Simlian Group is also the developer. You have the cost effectiveness saving, and most importantly, developers' margin has also reduced greatly after all the cooling measures has come in place, shown by this chart, and it's very transparent in Singapore. The developers' margin has really been on the average of between maybe less than 10 to become 10 to 15%, that range. So this is an average. And definitely the demand is there because as we are talking, as I mentioned to you, 2018, we have been the top selling for Tapestry, and 2019, we have also been the top selling development in Singapore. We have crossed 1,000 units in sales in less than 12 months. And as we are talking now today, we have crossed 1,100, which is crossing the 50% benchmark in the entire development. And we just did it in less than 13 months. Okay, and this is a great, significant numbers to show the demand, the genuine demand coming from the upgraders market. As I highlighted to you, are there numbers to support? Okay. So after sharing with you close to 2 hours, I think I've come to the end of my sharing. You can continue to do nothing, pretend you never watched this webinar, or you can start to call your PropNex agent and start to talk to them about your financial plans, talk to them about your retirement plans. And I really thank everyone for your attention and time. Please get in touch with your PropNex consultants who have invited you to this webinar, and further understand more from your personal portfolio, whether are you suitable to, take into considerations of what we have proposed to you in the past 2 hours. All right, with that, thank you very much, and I wish you the very best. And take care, stay safe. Okay, Eddie, are you ready?
Yes, CJ, thank you for all the question and answers and very, very detailed presentation. Today we have also 1,300 over participants here with us. So I think, I don't know why, is it a magic number or something like that? 1,003, 1,003, 1,003. I think most of the questions has been answered by your systematic sharing. Maybe we just anchor off the next thing is because when we look at the chart of the HDB prices, right, you mentioned that the leap to cross over to a private property will get larger and larger. So on average, I think you did not show the private residential resale price index, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one, everybody, the participants, you can get from a PropNex agent. We have published that report itself. So CJ, they asked a question is that you mentioned about accrued interest, but accrued interest is also paid back to ourselves, ma. So in that sense, they are asking, how is it considered a loss, or what is your opinion about how you can better use it, or is there opportunity cost if they continue to accrue their interest in their CPF?
Okay, thank you very much for this question, because based on the example given, right, after you sell, based on the exact case study just now when I show, right, if you sell 688,000, you get $0 in the sales proceed. There is no cash. Maybe yes, you have CPF, but then the question is when you go and buy the next property, assuming you're buying a resale and you have no savings, then where do you get the money from? Secondly, renovation. Yes, you can take a renovation loan, but very little people want to take renovation loan because the interest rate is higher. So with that in mind, right, you can also understand that, hey, if I don't have cash to support my buying, if I don't have cash to make the 5% down payment, and I'm talking about now, if further down the road, really 20 years from now, maybe the down payment could be 10%, 15% cash and not 5% cash. All these can change. All these are variables. But what I'm saying here is that you do not have cash proceed. And that is very critical because you need cash proceed for down payment. You need the cash for renovation. So I'm not going to go in details, but speak to your PropNex agents who have invited you. And I appreciate your question for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CJ. I think the other thing about your 5-tab theory is very, very interesting because you mentioned about regulation can tighten and open as well. So for people buying BTO, right, I'm not sure, what's your view on this? I just feedback a growing trend on the ground as well. In the past, people that buy resale are people who are single or maybe people who are not eligible for a BTO, which is income ceiling. But with the government recent tweak in allowing singles to buy certain type of BTO and also divorcee can even buy a BTO even they are below 35 years old, or even income ceiling increase, what do you think will impact people who's holding a BTO or going to buy a BTO for investment later on?
I think the first thing you need to know is that we are not saying BTO is no good because that makes what we are made of. That means the government wants the people to have a home, to start off their love nest so that the population can continue to grow. They cannot be doing at the staircase, so they have to do get it done at the home. So to start off with, I think there is something that I think is important to know, that BTO is nothing wrong. It's good as a stepping stone. But the question here goes back to, are you young enough to wait 9 years? Because to build the BTO takes 3 to 4 years. To MOP takes another 5 years. It's a total holding period of 9 years. Are we able, based on your age, are we able to hold that long and yet you are confident that you are able to continue to get that kind of income so that you can upgrade later? Or if you are already eligible to do it now, then why procrastinate? So I think that's the main difference. I'm not saying BTO no good, I'm not saying whatever, but I think most importantly is the choice and options, and to always keep your mind open for the options.
Thank you, CJ. I think that's a very good viewpoint. That this is what we all strongly agree, that BTO is good. It's for a home, which is what our government is strongly putting the message across, which is why the growth in the prices of the HDB are curtailed because of government's very tight regulation and monitoring of the market to make sure it remains affordable. And thank you for the 9 years theory. I think I just spin off something in my mind for BTO. You can afford the down payment, but can you afford the time? 9 years. Okay, I think we covered quite a fair bit of question in your session itself. Would you want to end off with another 1 or 2 words sharing?
I think most importantly, right, we know the fact that right now with the prolonged circuit breaker, right, we still have an additional of almost a month. And the questionable thing is we do not know whether it really can be completed at the 1st June, right? We do not know yet. But the fact of the matter is with this time that allows you to make a decent financial plan, a very systematic approach where your agents can then help you to make a firm and sound decision, I think it is your duty to go and find out, to go and make sure you know your numbers well before you even decide, maybe even after the CCB ended. But the question here is whether after or whatever, it is important to do it while you have the time, which is now. Everybody's at home. You have no excuse saying that you have no time. And thanks for tuning in, because by tuning in, I know you have the time to learn and to be empowered. And I really appreciate all your time spent here together. I really hope you have learned something and beneficial for you and your family. And I urge you to speak to your PropNex agent. Call them now.
Thank you, Cijay, for the night. From what you introduce yourself, from even your personal life, I can see you plan very well. Number 4 already. Is there number 5 coming? Okay, I think we have a wonderful night today. Thank you, Cijay, for sharing with us so much. So for the rest of the participants, have a great evening, and then do think about it, and then wish you all stay safe. Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.